John Shannon and his 100% hockey. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. He's the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia. The former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada joins us now. Hello.
How are you, boys?
Good.
We're fantastic. I was hoping for a better hockey game Saturday.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because in a few of the conversations I have ongoing during the games is now after regaling everybody for 4 games that this was the greatest final in recent history, I'm taking it off the list because Saturday changed the whole dynamic. And I can tell you right now, if Florida is going to win Game 6, if they do, they'll change the same dynamic again, doing it the same way.
For sure. It needs a very big finish now. It needs an Oilers win in Game 6 as well as a terrific Game 7.
Well, here's the thing, too, guys.
I think it was disappointing on 2 levels. Number one, the Oilers with, as close to a no-show as you can have in a Stanley Cup final on home ice, but also the way Edmonton has lost those 2 games, particularly the game 3 in Florida. They just weren't, hold your attention over 2.5 hours, 60-minute games.
Well, and even if the Oilers win, if it's another nail-biting win as they've won so far, they haven't gone out and just won a game.
That's okay. Style points don't count here.
No.
You just got to get wins.
But it's still
this is like your match play golf yesterday. Come on.
Exactly.
This is more like but I'm saying in terms of legacy, if they lose, to your point, John, they kind of will go out with a whimper if they lose this series without really winning a game. That's when style points count. That's when style points count. When you're the loser, wondering how did our season go, if you don't go out and actually just beat the other team in a game, I don't know. That tells you how close you are, I think.
But if Tuesday night's game is another overtime game, then those are style points that you can't beat. And then when you say 4 of the 6 games would be in overtime, so do I expect the Oilers to have a better effort in Game 6? Yeah, I do. They will have a better effort. I mean, I shudder to think what the conversation in the room was like, and I shudder to think what the flight to Sunrise was like for them. I mean, it would be arduous to say the least, and they're not going to go all that way and then lay an egg. They're just not. This is their MO. They always put themselves in these precarious positions and have find a way to get themselves out of it.
Okay, so answer the question.
I think this team is better than last year's team. And last year's team went to 7.
But they may not. Yeah, I mean, this year's team is better than last year's team, but the way this series is going, I think you could say you're further away.
Okay, so
at least from this year's Panthers team.
Because Florida's team is that much better than last year's team.
So answer the big question everybody's trying to answer right now, and give me the John Shannon pick, and give me what the Oilers will pick, Pickard or Skinner.
I think we both picked Stuart Skinner. I think that I would pick Skinner. He does rebound after being pulled better. I also think that Chris Knobloch would feel better with Stuart Skinner in goal. By the way, I did a poll on my social media account and got 4,000 votes, and it was 80% Skinner, which 80%. Surprised me. Yeah. Which surprised me for those hardcore Oilers fans that I deal with. They're now a lot of people voted and said I don't care because they're off the bandwagon.
Are some Oilers fans becoming Pickard fans?
I saw your poll. I voted Skinner.
I tell you, the roller coaster for fan emotion is, again, this goes back to what Saturday night was for style points. I think the style points for Saturday really put people in a bad mood. That how can they, at home with the Mardi Gras crowd, with everything going on, with 40,000 people inside and outside the arena, and then for them to not even really show up would be shockingly disappointing, and I think that weighed on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mind you, Florida plays better on the road than they do at home.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Here's one of the things I've noticed here this spring, John, and this guy doesn't wholly believe me, but we went out to watch the game on Saturday. My better half, my brother, my best friend, all expressed interest in going out to watch the hockey game on Saturday. And I assure you, those three things do not often happen. We go down to one of our locals. It is absolutely packed. The volume is on. Everybody is watching the game. There is not a single Oilers sweater in the bar, and yet the bar is firmly with Edmonton. I actually think there is a little bit to the Canada's team thing this year. I think it's McDavid root, and I think it's McDavid rooted.
I think there's a ton. I think there's those two reasons alone. I think that Connor McDavid does transcend Edmonton. Connor McDavid with what he did at Four Nations, I think has a lot to do with it. Connor McDavid, who was named one of the 6 players for Canada today. I think that there is something. I can tell you right now in Southern Ontario, this is Edmonton Oilers country. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Even though there are lots of kids from Ontario on the Florida Panthers, this is Edmonton Oilers country. And I do think, I do think that the whole concept of bringing the cup home has had a tremendous influence in that. By the way, Rogers, say what you want. Rogers' whole "this is our game" concept, which is run rampant through all of their programming on all of their platforms, has rung true with a lot of people.
I think so.
Well, it's no surprise to me that it's getting the attention. People want to see Connor McDavid do crazy things. For the viewership numbers, that doesn't surprise me. But, I mean, I've got the exact opposite. I was at a bar watching Game 4, and it was all Oiler fans, all adorned, and it was, they were all speaking with deep knowledge of the Oilers. They were Oiler fans.
Yeah, look.
Isn't Vancouver the largest city from Alberta outside of Alberta?
Pretty much. I believe that is true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I know 5 good friends that are Oiler fans.
Although more and more are going back these days. Yeah. In some cases,
don't go there, Matt. Don't go there. Don't.
I will give you the litmus test of the Okanagan in August, John, because as you know, half of Alberta is in the Okanagan in August.
I can tell you right now, I can tell you right now, though, even 20 years ago, if you had to choose between, and I used to do this in my old job, when you did distribution of what games go which areas of the country, and I would tell you, for the first 10 years that I worked, we would probably put the Toronto Maple Leafs into British Columbia. But by the mid-90s, if we didn't put the Edmonton Oilers into British Columbia, my phone would melt. There are that many Oilers fans in the province. And it hasn't changed.
Oh, well, I mean, my girl's from Prince George. Like, there's a good number of just Oiler fans in PG, right? I mean, they're as close to Edmonton as they are to Vancouver. But no, they started in the conference final. Like a friend of mine who runs a bar, and it's not a sports bar, said, "Matt, you'd be proud of us. We've had these Oilers games on with volume the last couple of nights upon request." And he's like, "It's not like I've got a bunch of hockey jerseys in my bar. I just think there's a lot of people out there who are pulling for McDavid." And I think you're absolutely right that the Four Nations thing is part and parcel of it, because we saw best on best international hockey for the first time in a number of years. Help me out with this. Who started the Canada's team thing? Was that you? Was that your crew at Hockey Night, or was that post John Shannon at Hockey Night? When did we start talking about the last Canadian team standing in the playoffs being quote unquote Canada's team?
No, that wasn't us. We actually tried to play it down the middle. In the time that in my last sojourn there, we had the Red Wings, the Devils, the Penguins. We had, but we never really said cheer for a Canadian team. Those were days though that there was a good chance a Canadian team got to the conference final. Then we really got hurt when they only went to the first round. and that changed the whole concept after 1993. So, to me, this was all part and parcel of what the corporate speak was for the last 10 years, and finally taking advantage of it. And now knowing that they're going to be on board for another 12 years, I think Rogers is playing the patriotic game at a time when go to your grocery store, go to your car dealer, anywhere, you're waving the Canadian flag, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Okay, so let me ask the uncomfortable question that I haven't really seen floating in any way, shape, or form. Tomorrow night, John, might be the last game before contract negotiations open up between the Oilers and Connor McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
What does a loss tomorrow night mean for the future of Connor McDavid in an Edmonton Oilers jersey?
I don't think it changes a thing. I really don't. I think the real indication of Connor staying long term happened last summer when Leon signed long term, and I think that their friendship and their relationship and their working relationship is strong enough that had Leon said, "Well, I'm not signing," I think then we would have had a concern for the Oiler fans and for the Oilers that Connor wouldn't go. The fact that Leon is signed long-term tells me that, in my opinion, that Connor's going to sign long-term.
Is that the right choice? He'll be 29 mid-season. They've certainly been to the precipice. Again, we'll assume a loss tomorrow just for the sake of this exercise. Assume a loss tomorrow. He'll be 29 mid-season next year. You put all your eggs into this basket for a dozen years of your career almost. Is that the right choice for the player to keep banging your head against that wall in hopes that you'll get over the horizon?
Well, I think that there's part of it is the competitive side too, and saying I can't believe we haven't done it, and the job's not finished. We better finish the job.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the history. First of all, you look at the history of hockey players. Hockey players are very conservative in nature. They love job security, and they hate change. They hate change. But then you look at some of the greatest players of all time that went into 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years before winning a Stanley Cup. Steve Yzerman and Alex Ovechkin come to mind right off the top. Mario Lemieux didn't make the playoffs for the first 5 years that he played in Pittsburgh. So I think that, and I'm not saying that, Connor's looking at the record book saying, well, Mario and Steve and Alex, I'm not going to do it myself. I just think that is in the DNA of hockey players to stay and get it done. I also think that Connor has built a tremendous relationship with the city of Edmonton, with Daryl Cates, with that fan base and that arena. And I just can't see it changing. Now, 1988, I didn't see. No, I didn't see the trade coming either. But the world has changed a great deal since then. I just don't see Connor changing. I think he's committed to the long term there.
I'll say this too. You're right about the relationship.
His coffers are in better standing than Peter Pocklington's.
Yes, that too. But the relationship is. You're right, John. Because guys, I don't think, again, let's say they lost that game tomorrow. I don't think he shoulders much of the blame. I think people go, when are you going to give this team a goaltender? They're going to find other reasons to point to, and I think Connor's going to be well down that list of blame. And there's not many circumstances in sport where one player takes a team to the think about Jim Kelly. I think Jim Kelly got a lot of blame in Buffalo, didn't he? After the first couple.
Well, not Scott Norwood blame, but yes, he got some.
Yeah, he's pretty Teflon, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, John,
listen. We're talking about failure, and they're 2 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
But they're the ones with their backs against the wall. So
hey, give me Game 7. I'm all in on Edmonton win Game 6. I want to see another Game 7 between these two, and maybe redeem some of these Oilers' losses in the series at large. John, why are we hearing about Olympic players today?
I don't know. I must admit,
Blake and I were trying to figure it out. They picked today of all days to give us the first 6 on these Olympic teams.
Yeah. Now we all know why they're doing it is so that they're able to put guys in sweaters and guys in merchandise and marketing opportunities. Why it couldn't happen next Monday or the day before the draft or the day before free agency. I don't know what the calendar has to do with it. I must admit I am a little disappointed because all we should be talking about is the Stanley Cup Final. And in many ways you wonder, and it's what happened with the awards as well. The awards kind of got forgotten. And then it was it was a 60-minute road show, which wasn't a bad show. It didn't bother me. It's just, gosh, the news cycle is they've upset the news cycle, and I don't understand why. There must be something between the league and the IOC and the federation that says it has to be named 6 months out or something. I don't know.
Next Monday would have been perfect.
Well, we were wondering whether they just feel like there's a bunch of hockey fans who check out once the end of their cup final. But I gotta say, nobody clusters their news like the NHL and then goes dark for a period of time with not a lot happening. And I've often wondered, I know guys work hard in the industry and they want their Augusts off and things like that, but I do wonder whether they make enough of that 6 to 8 week period after July 1st in terms of news.
Well, and we're in the schedules. The schedule used to come out the day after the Major League Baseball All-Star game because it got a lot of attention. There was no other sporting event on that travel day after the Major League Baseball All-Star game. And then they moved it to the draft week. I think it's going back to July again. So from that perspective, I agree with you. But there has to be, between now and June 30th, there would have had to have been a better day, a dark day of information that would have allowed us to talk about who's going to the Olympics. And to me, that was next Monday, not this Monday.
Alrighty, sir. Well, enjoy what's left of this Cup Final. Next time we're talking to you, we'll have a champion and we'll be off and on to the off season. Appreciate this, John.
Have a great day, boys.